I'm trying to think. I actually don't know what part this is from. I'd say Abkhazia, so the Caucasus.
Mm. Hmm. Wow.
Actually, wait, where I can actually Google this. Abkhazia. Uh, right on the money. Yeah. Caucasus.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Oh,
It's,
nice.
it's
Yeah.
pretty close
Yep.
to
State in the
approximately.
South Caucasus, recognized by countries as part of Georgia.
Hmm. Wow. Were you gonna say something, Shashank?
No, I was just asking Jack whether his game's like post-apocalyptic, so, or is
No,
it just like
it's mostly where the government is exactly how it is in real life, so doesn't really care for the people.
Mm. Yikes. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah. Also, hi, Kim. Are you joining us?
I'm joining you this evening.
Oh, welcome. Okay.
I'm a learner this evening. We'll put it that way.
We're about to do some engineering and math.
Cool.
At least try to. Yeah. Okay.
Yay.
All we can do is try. So let's see. I can get my slides going here. We're recording. Okay, that's my email. You don't want to see that. Okay. So welcome to January 10th edition of the Engineering and Math Breakout Room. So just as our icebreaker today, I know we touched on this a little bit already, but if today you could tell us if you have a New Year's resolution, or if not, what you did for New Year's Eve, if you have a presentation or public speaking tip that you'd like to share with the group, and then any ideas or commitments that you've made for SASEF. So I'll go first. So Jack, you said you were in Canada. I was in Wisconsin, which is kind of close. That's where I'm from. This was the view from my bedroom window during the bomb cyclone. So it was like negative 20, negative 15. It was very cold. Fahrenheit. I like that you added the unit as well. That was pretty good. And then I guess my speaking tip is remember who your audience is and what they and infer what they probably already know or what they maybe don't already know, and design your presentation or whatever type of kind of event it is to match that. And also take deep breaths. I don't know, I'm a little bit of a nervous public speaker, but again, working on it. And as for SASEF, I'm committed to helping you all. So I don't know if we want to just go down the list for my participant list, but Jack, do you want to go first?
I guess I will. I don't really do New Year's resolutions because they usually fail within the first month. So what what I did on New Year's Eve is what I normally do. Um, we were downstairs, celebrated, and went to bed.
Perfect.
This
Did you
is
make
literally
it?
what we did.
Did you
We
make
didn't
it
even do
till midnight?
fireworks.
Oh, fireworks. That's fun.
Well, we didn't do them. We normally do fireworks, but we just
Oh.
didn't because we were too tired. Yeah, we made it to midnight. Well, at least some of us did. My grandfather was too tired, so he went to bed.
That happens. Yeah. When you get older, what can I say?
Um,
Yeah, go ahead.
oh yeah, for number two, whenever, like, let's say, would anyone like to go first? Always just go first, right? Something basically in English last semester, at the end we did like a little project, and like people were like hesitating, right? Like, ooh, should we put our name up there, right? Because you put your name up to go first. And he said, oh yeah, by the way, you can sign up for right now. And some people stood up but like didn't really start going. I immediately stood up and just walked and just put my name up there.
Yeah,
I'm
take
not good
initiative.
at public speaking at all, so I was like, might as well.
No, I think that's a great tip. Just, I'd say, you can procrastinate, you can, dread it, or you can just get it over with. So
I mean, the result's going to be the same in the either way, so
you're so right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a really good tip. And then as far as SASEF goes, I think last time, did you say you were interested or you're kind of ruling it out for now? Or what was the status there?
Ruling out for now.
Ruling it out for now. Okay. Maybe one of the upcoming years. Well, thank
Hopefully.
you. Yeah, yeah. Now you kind of have a little better idea what it is, I guess. Maybe. Yeah, there's years to come. Shashank, would you like to go next?
Sure. I usually don't do New Year's resolutions. This is not my type of thing. It's not in my culture, so we don't do it.
Fair.
But on New Year's Eve, I did watch a movie called Happy New Year. It was one of my favorite movies when I was a child, so it just reminded me of stuff.
Mhm. Nice.
For presentation, yeah, for the number 2, for those speaking tips, the main thing I would say is that if you're talking in front of a group of like students or kids in your class,
Mhm.
most of them probably don't care what you're saying because they're doing other stuff. So the only real person who's paying attention to you is probably your teacher. So just have that in mind, knowing that, oh yeah, these kids aren't paying attention, so I'm only talking to really one person here.
Mhm.
And another tip is to mainly use pictures in your thing and not so many words, because you're going to be explaining everything, and that may pull in people who look at the pictures and are like, oh, explain this further.
Yeah.
And for number 3, I'm not planning on doing it, but what I feel like is the best option for me is sort of starting a club about it in my school to sort of spread awareness and
Ooh.
maybe get a team together to do it together. Because I'm sort of idealist and unknowing of this entire thing.
Yeah. I
I
think
feel like the best option would be to get create a club where it's solely about a science fair. Like I'm not in the counties for safe stuff, but I'm in the counties for a different one.
Mhm.
So I feel if we were able to do that, it could be like a 3-person or 4-person team, and we could send 2 or 3 groups in to
Yeah.
do the science fair, and that would be a cool thing.
Yeah, contact that science fair director and find out how to do it.
I think
Yeah.
that's
They'll probably have stuff to help you.
yeah. And I did like your presentation tip. It's good sometimes to play those mind games with yourself and it kind of makes it a little less nerve-wracking if you're just talking to one person. That was good too. But yeah, I think a club would be awesome. Kim, I don't know if you want to go, you're welcome to.
Sure. This year, actually, I read an article before New Year's Eve that said, don't do a resolution, find a topic you're going to focus on.
No.
So I decided that this year I would focus on health
Oh.
and well-being. So it's kind of a resolution, but it's like, I'm not saying I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I'm not saying I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to focus on my health.
Yeah. I like that a lot. Yeah. I think maybe a little bit more, if it's more general, you kind of maybe a little more accomplishable as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And my public speaking tip is because I'm a teacher and I do this stuff all the time. I say practice. Practice. The first time I gave a presentation at a national meeting, I stepped backwards and stepped off the stage.
Oh.
But I knew my presentation so well, I kept talking until I could get back up on the stage and do it. So after that, I haven't been really afraid of the worst thing that could happen because I think that was.
Yeah. What it sounds like quite the recovery, truly. Yeah.
So
Uh-huh. And then I don't know if I know we've done this a million times, but you're probably not doing a SASEF project, but maybe if you could reiterate what your role is.
I am the fair director, so it's going to be my job to make sure that Jack stays in and gets a project in here next year. I basically am involved in doing things like getting the money for running this science club and getting the money to run the science fair and making sure that everyone is treated fairly and equally.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. I think, yeah, it seems like such a good opportunity. So thank you for doing that and the work you do. Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. Okay. So now we'll move into our fun fact segment of the evening. So have any of you ever used a microscope before?
I have. We looked at onion skins with it.
What was that? Sorry.
We looked at onion skins with it, and we were able to see the
Cool.
nucleus of the cell.
That's pretty cool. Did it look something like what's on the top of the screen here?
Yeah.
Okay. Jack, have you ever used a microscope?
Yes, in biology.
In biology class, so primarily for biological applications. Yeah, I think that's definitely a good thing to do in science class. It's kind of a cool tool. So I'm just going to talk a little bit. So this is what's called an optical microscope. And since you've used them before, I'll kind of breeze through this. But basically, the operation for an optical microscope, you place an object on your stage, you view that object through an eyepiece, and the objective lenses in that microscope provide the ability to magnify the image. You can see more fine details of what you're viewing in a microscope. So there's two main kinds of optical microscopes on the marketplace, shall we say, and these are what's called ray diagrams. So if you can see, I wonder if I can get my laser pointer. Can you see my laser pointer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's very red.
Very red. Okay, perfect. So you see, here's your object plane. That's what you're looking at. The light refracts through a lens, and what you see is a magnified image with one simple lens. Next, we can increase that with what's called a compound optical microscope, where you're actually able to reflect the light through two separate lenses, and that's able to increase the magnification of your object even more. So it seems like a fairly, straightforward concept. We have, ray diagrams to show what's happening to the light specifically. Very effective and really, really useful tools for things like biology, for things, like in material science, which is what I do. We do a lot of fracture analysis with these tools. You can see, objects up close at higher detail. And actually, it's more common in science labs to have a compound microscope because you get a little bit more of that magnification. And those were invented way back in the 17th century. So they've been around for years. And the magnification limit of optical microscopes, or microscopes that use, visible light, are limited to about 1000x, which is a little bit hand wavy. What we really, really call it in terms of microscopy is a resolution limit. And this resolution limit is features on the order of 0.2 to 0.3 times 10 to the negative 4th centimeters. So it's very small. And this resolution limit is, by definition, is between two features which you can resolve. And that's pretty good. That's really small, it's times 10 to the negative 4th centimeters. Like, you think a centimeter on a ruler, quite a small feature, and you can go 4 times smaller than that. That's pretty incredible. But for a lot of things, that might not be small enough. So how do we see features that are even smaller? Does anybody have any idea?
Electrons.
That is awesome, Jack. You are so right. So we can use electrons. And since you're high schoolers, I think you've probably been exposed to what an electron is. It's the negatively charged particle that orbits around a nucleus in an atom. And we're basically able to strip those off, an electron source, focus them, and create an image. So have you heard of an electron microscope?
Yes.
Jack, you have. Shashank, have you ever heard?
I have not.
You
I have not. I know what they're used for, but I haven't seen one or like
Sure.
even.
Yeah, so an example of what they look like, actually, I think my laser pointer is still going, but so this,
Yeah.
I wish I would have put a person kind of so you could see the scale of what this actually is like. This is one of the tools that we have at UTK called a transmission electron microscope. And this column here is maybe 8 feet tall. It's a super, super tall instrument, so we can really focus those electrons. And the samples themselves are on the orders of, a few nanometers, which is 10 to the -7 centimeter thick. So it's a really incredible tool. And as you can see on this diagram, our eye can see, on the order, it's some small features by eye. We can improve that with light microscopes. But if you look at what an electron microscope can see, in certain cases, we can go all the way down to atoms. So they're really, really incredible tools. And this tool here, this transmission electron microscope, which we use the acronym TEM, was invented in the 1930s and has been developed and automated since then. So they're much easier to use nowadays. And there's also a scanning version, and I won't get into too much of the difference for the sake of time today, but the magnification is on the order of 1,000 times and a lot more better than what you can see with an optical light microscope because of the wavelength of the incident irradiation you're using to view your material. So just to give you kind of an idea of what a transmission electron microscope, this is a high resolution image, so this is about as good as we can get right now, but these are actually individual atoms. These bright spots here that you see and these red spots here are actually individual atoms that were observed in this transition electron microscope. So it's pretty incredible. And I have one more thing. This was sent by one of my professors. Can you see the video?
Yes.
Okay. So this is just to, this is to give you the scale. So this is with an optical microscope. This is what we can see. And what we can see right now is we're going to zoom in onto a sample here, even finer. So now what we see here is what's called a scanning electron microscope. Those are for intermediate magnifications, and we're going to continue zooming in. Now we've moved to the transmission electron microscope, and what you can see in these last few frames are actually those lines. Let's see if I can get them back. These lines are actually atomic columns of the sample. So it's really, really incredible the resolution we're able to get with these tools. So that was kind of a long, fun fact. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. But I think, again, for the sake of time, we'll move on. We've kind of already talked about your SACEF projects. If anything changes, again, the project registration date is February 28th, as long as you don't have anything hazardous. And if you've been here a couple weeks, we've always come back to the scientific method. And so last week, and I think, Jack, you were here last week, right?
I believe so.
You believe, or not last week, last time we met, it was, last year even, you could say. We started to talk about how to communicate your results effectively. And all this is courtesy of Jacqueline Weeks, which I attended a seminar this summer that kind of put how to communicate effectively in terms of how your brain interprets information. So we didn't get through everything last week, so I'm just going to try to do a quick overview and then we'll get into some new stuff if that's okay. So I think the first thing that you think about when you start preparing a science fair project or your presentation for that project is you ask the question, what are you trying to accomplish? And then you ask, how do you accomplish that goal? So it's kind of a cause and effect type relationship. And we can think about that in terms of the brain, in which there's 3 functional levels. You can see on the left side of the screen here. So we have our neocortex here, which is for higher reasoning. It's a relatively newer or more recently developed part of the brain. Then we have the limbic part of the brain, which is for memory and emotion, kind of an intermediate part. And then you have the reptilian brain, which is for survival mechanisms and your autonomic nervous systems, or autonomic systems, which are those components where your brain does automatically, like heartbeat or constricting your blood vessels, those type of things. And as you might expect, the higher reasoning is the slower part of your brain, and the fastest are going to be those survival mechanisms, or your hindbrain. So talking a little bit first about when you're in the room where you're trying to present a science fair project, how do you appeal to these three parts of the brain individually? So first, talking about your reptilian brain, this is going to be people's first impression, and this would be your appearance. If you want to dress for the occasion, that can help. Your posture, you want to be open, tall, you want to invite people in, be genuine, show enthusiasm with your hands, and also you even want to be aware, literally head to toe, because your feet generally point at an object of interest. So not that you have to consciously think of all these things at every moment, but just something you can check in with yourself during a presentation and say, you know, what are my hands doing? What is my face doing? That type of thing. So next, moving on to the limbic brain, and again, this is kind of the intermediate time, a response time with which people will kind of look at your science fair poster or you and say, yes, I want to approach this person. So as you're explaining, you want to make sure that your volume matches the venue. So you don't want to, you know, shout over the person next to you, but you also want to make sure people can hear you. You want to keep it conversational, make sure your speed is kind of matching the people's kind of perception or how they're kind of absorbing your information. Make sure to enunciate and even start slow for the first sentence or two so that people can kind of adjust to what you're about to talk about. Yeah, Jack, you're so right. Sound professional. And then finally, you want to be friendly, curious, enthusiastic, you know, all those things that you know, you want to show that you're excited about the work that you did, because ultimately that's why we do a science fair project.
And I can tell you that some of the judges that you'll get in a science fair will be a little hard of hearing. So, because we have a lot of retired scientists who do this for fun. And so you do have to kind of look at the person, your person's age a little bit, and moderate your volume for that reason as well.
Yeah, which is another good tip for SASEF, which hopefully, Jack, you can participate in your respective science fair. Shashank, I hope that works out for you with your club. Okay, and then finally, the prefrontal cortex, which again is your higher reasoning center. How do we appeal to that part of your brain? This is kind of where it gets to the nuts and bolts of your story. So again, what is the problem and why is it interesting? What did you discover, solve, build? And then finally, you want to circle back and say how that you accomplished what you set out to, or you know, your conclusions from the work that you've done on your path to solving that problem. And then kind of what I talked about, my presentation tip, always know your audience, gear your presentation towards them, you know, start with your audience's prior knowledge and kind of think about what they want or need to know. There's a little bit of a juxtaposition in the next bullet point because you want to be confident in what you know, but also, especially if the judges are retired scientists, they probably are wells of knowledge. So be open to learning something new too. I think that's always a good tip. So confident and humble at the same time, which can coexist and is a good way to approach this kind of poster session. And then finally, we want to apply the right visuals, which is a little bit what we're going to talk about today. If hopefully we have a little bit more time.
Emily, can I say something in here?
Yes, please do.
One of the questions that judges typically ask students after they do the presentation is, what did you like about your project and what would you do differently if you were going to do it all over again? So those are a little bit higher order thinking, and sometimes that catches students off guard. So I just wanted them to let them know that those questions and, what will you do to further this project if you do it again?
Yeah,
So-
and I think that's great advice in general, kind of to have that reflection on any science project that you're doing, Yeah, and that's kind of, it could be a tricky project or question in the moment, but yeah, for sure. Thank you. So, now hopefully I can be a little bit more, now that we have a little bit, I think we have a couple minutes left. I'd like a little bit more participation on your parts, if that's okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about the physical poster design. So, and this section has 3 parts. First, the story, the visuals, and the editing. But first, a little bit more about the brain. So the brain processes linguistic information or spoken information at 2 levels, structural and factual. So, and it can only assimilate a limited quantity of information at a time. So basically, with your poster and what you're saying, you don't want to overwhelm the people who are visiting your science fair poster. So I think this graphic on the bottom right here kind of does a good job of summing that up. So basically, your physical design or structure of your poster, if that's something that people have seen before and the content is something that people have seen before, that can come off as a little boring or old. If both are new, it can result in kind of some confusion or be distracting to an audience. But if you kind of tailor your poster so that the structure is old or something that they're used to or is straightforward to follow, and then your content is new, it makes that content easier to interpret and also easier to remember. So just a little something to think about. So part 1, the story. First, what do you guys think? What do you think about, how you should communicate what you did? What are some tips? And I know we started this kind of in our icebreaker, but anything else that you can kind of think of?
I feel like you should start the story where you started in your life with that question, that one moment that inspired your entire thing.
Yeah.
So judges are like, oh yeah, that's what started this. And then you do progression and make sure to include a few hurdles, like problems that you faced. So you're just have an easier time to relate, because not everything's gonna be success after success.
I think that's a great answer. Yeah. You want to have, clear motivation. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Shashank.
No, it's fine. I was just gonna say, and then end with how your conclusion related back to your hypothesis that you made.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you really, start to finish, you want to tell a complete story and impart the information that you think the audience would be most interested in, and the problem, your motivation, kind of go through all those steps. Jack, do you have anything to add?
No.
Not now. I'll show you the questions kind of that I came up with to accompany this story. So, who is your audience? Think about, again, we've talked about that a couple of times. What does your audience need to know? And kind of start there. And then, does your story match your audience? And then finally, kind of a little bit going back to what Shashank was talking about, what kind of story are you actually telling? For a science fair project, did you discover something? Did you solve something, model something, build something? And the options are endless there. So you can take that and run with it, I think. So next, we'll go in a little bit on the visuals and how you should physically design your poster. Do you have any thoughts on that?
All I would say is just easy to follow. Like, have a step by step, like, here's where it starts, here's where it goes.
Yeah, I think like, yeah, like that slide a couple back that had the new content but old structure, I think, yeah, that definitely makes it easier to follow.
Organization.
It's key for sure. Yeah, I totally agree. I think those are both great comments. So first, kind of what I had on the visuals. So first you want to understand visual hierarchies, and just a couple examples of those. Big is going to catch your attention first before small, bright then drab, irregular then standard. And you can kind of see that with the examples on the right. And also another important part of this is remember that we read upper left to lower right in English. So it's, you kind of want to gear your story in that order as well, because that makes, for a more coherent flow in your brain as you're reading a poster. So second, applying visual principles such as layout and size, especially of font. You don't want people to have to be 2 inches from your poster to be able to read it. But you also, want it small enough to be able to include all the information you want to. Again, layout kind of has to do with the order you're reading in, section arrangement. So I think this is a lot of what, again, Shashank was talking about with telling your story. You want to have a background or motivation, your method, your results, and then finally your conclusions, kind of as a linear flow. Color and font, the most important thing here, make it easy to read. So this means, have good contrast between your colors, make a font like a serif or sans serif that's easier to follow. And then also don't underestimate the power of graphs, charts, tables. These are really with an emphasis on good captions and good labels. So yeah, these are, straightforward ways to present trends or those kind of things. Oh, we only have a minute.
Yeah, one of the things in a science fair project, you see that big middle section first.
Mm-hmm.
And the things you've done have been really good to draw your eye into that middle section.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip too. Yeah, and I just swiped a couple examples from the internet. And if we would have had time, we could have kind of gone through and talked about what we liked or didn't like about all these. You can kind of decide your favorite or what you do like about these. Unfortunately, we don't have a ton of time left, but part 3 was going to be editing. This should be works or words, not works. So basically avoid fluff, ask for help, ask for another opinion. And finally, thank you for coming this week. And I hope it's a good one. So yeah, hopefully.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, hopefully you can apply some of these tips more broadly too, beyond science fairs, but hopefully SASEF or your local fair next year.
Welcome back, everyone.
Zoe, I'm gonna finish that sentence.
I'm sorry, Jen.
It's okay. Aaron and I were racing. Zoe, please, if you want to do that, send an email to prep@utk.edu so that you can be put in touch with Aaron, and we can help you flesh that idea out, because you're on a great track, and I'd love to see that in the fair.
I second that.
Okay, I believe, because when you're hosting on Zoom, I can only see so many people, but I do believe that everyone is back. I just wanted to mention that today was the last day for our mentor meetings. If everyone can give a round of applause to our fabulous mentors. Thank you so much for coming with us. They are not going away. I'm holding them on for dear life. So they will be back, hopefully some for them for next year. But next meeting is going to be a guest speaker. And then after that is our office hours, which you can ask us questions. not only staff, but if the mentors do have some time, they will be available. I don't know if you guys will still be there, but they might be there, so you can still ask questions. And then the last meeting for Virtual Science Club is another guest speaker, and he is from Cruise Farms. So we have Galactic Gal next week, and sorry, week after. My days, guys. Just coming back from break, my brain is just kind of like work mode. What's that? Okay, so in the next couple weeks we have Galactic Gal, and then we have our office meeting, office hours, and then Cruise Farms. So please look ahead for those meetings, invite your friends, and let's finish up the last 3 meetings with a bang. All right, so while you guys were in your breakout meetings, I did pick a prize winner for this meeting, and it is, I'm not sure if it's an I or an L, but Hoti.
Oh yeah, that's me, I think.
Okay, Lahoti. Is it Lahoti? Is that how you say your last name?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So congratulations, you are our prize winner for today's meeting. The prizes on the screen are what's available. So can you let us know what prize you'd like?
Yeah, can I get the drone? My brother would probably love that.
The drone is always going to be the number one. Okay, so if you could
I can
please...
attest the drone is awesome.
Yay! Like, for research purposes, Jen, I think we should get one, the prep team too, just, so we can test the test the merch. Let's test the merch.
I mean, Amazon told me that I hadn't purchased one in a while and asked me if I'd like to, so
Maybe we should get one to fly over SASIF.
that would be
I
fun.
mean, can we though? I don't know, is the ballroom tall enough? Or that, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
Really-
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We'll get a little banner.
Say so. Yes, that would be really cute. If you could go ahead and let us know your full email, not email, excuse me, your full address, Lahoti, and send your first and last name, full address, including zip code, to the prep.utk.edu, and then Miss Jennifer will go ahead and order that for you. And then, we'll send you a confirmation once it goes out. Okay.
Yeah, my email is shashanklahoti34@gmail.com, and I just sent the email.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I'll have her look over that after the meeting. All right. So, okay. So we are on social media. If you haven't already, please go ahead and sign up for our newsletter. You'll be up to date with all of our spring programs and all our programs that just happen throughout the year. And then for those who are applying for GovSchool, Say Chef Symposium, here are all the highlighted applications, application deadlines. I'll have you take a second to look at that. Like I said, the GovSchool one is literally next week, I think. Next Sunday. So yes, you have the rest of this week to finish up your GovSchool applications. Following that is the deadline for the symposium, which is February 15th. I've been announcing the SASIF deadlines for a while now, but please remember it is January 18th for pre-approval, and then registration is February 28th. I don't know if any of all are you part of the Sci Olympiad, but our tournament is going to be April 1st. Nicholas, I'm going to send you an email later about those details. But yeah, so those are our following prep programs after Virtual Science Club has ended. But don't worry, it will come up again in September. So we will, continue on after a short break. Okay, next. Computer will allow me. All right, again, the next meeting is the 24th, so go ahead and pre-register. And it's going to be a great one. Our first TikTok star, guys. gonna be fun. I'm sure a lot of you guys are on TikTok now. Even if you don't have an account that is actively like posting stuff, I'm sure you're on it at least 2-3 hours a day, because I used to be too, until I was like, I need to stop doing this. I entered grad school before that. That's why I had to stop. So anyways, it was great having you guys. I'm so happy that you guys came back. And I look forward to seeing you in future meetings as well as other programs. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Night.
Thank you.